Statement of facts. I. Introduction and executive summary. This action arises from Plaintiff Richard English's allegations that, from approximately May 2022 through August 2023, private individuals and public officials acted under colour of state law in a coordinated course of conduct to deprive him of liberty, property, privacy, and procedural due process. Plaintiff alleges that members of the Miller household initiated a sustained campaign of false complaints, invasive surveillance, and fraudulent applications for protective orders to force him from his residence. Employees of the Ventura County Sheriff's Office, officials with the City of Thousand Oaks, and other governmental actors allegedly facilitated this conduct by treating unverified allegations as fact and enforcing judicial orders known to be plagued by fatal defects in service of process. Rather than isolated occurrences, these actions formed a continuous, systemic course of conduct that resulted in repeated police harassment, an unlawful arrest, excessive force, the unlawful seizure of personal property, and plaintiff's ultimate eviction and homelessness during a period when California COVID-19 housing protections were in effect. Parties and background. During the relevant period, Plaintiff Richard English resided in Thousand Oaks, California, and was entitled to all protections guaranteed by the United States Constitution, the California Constitution, and statutory law. Defendants include private individuals within the Miller household, specifically Zachary Allen Miller Jr., Zachary Miller Sr., Xavier Miller, and Kaisam Miller She, as well as law enforcement officers, municipal officials, and other governmental actors acting within the scope of their employment but exceeding their lawful authority. Prior to May 2022, Plaintiff resided peacefully in his neighborhood with no history of conflict or violent criminal conduct toward the Miller family. The coordinated campaign and surveillance. Beginning in May 2022, members of the Miller household embarked on a systematic effort to portray Plaintiff as a dangerous individual. To provoke immediate law enforcement intervention and isolate Plaintiff, the Millers repeatedly referred to him in public records, declarations, and official communications as a white slave master. Plaintiff alleges the campaign involved the following coordinated actions: multi-agency dissemination. The Millers communicated knowingly false allegations of stalking, harassment, and racial intimidation to the Ventura County Sheriff's Office, the Thousand Oaks Mayor's Office, the FBI, and the Ventura County Superior Court. Invasive surveillance of the Millers installed and maintained digital cameras, microphones, and high-intensity lighting directed at Plaintiff's residence to monitor his daily movements. Exploitation of law enforcement resources. Millers routinely uploaded these recordings to digital law enforcement platforms such as Evidence.com. Law enforcement officials accepted this information without independent evaluation, devoting substantial public resources to monitoring and investigating Plaintiff, while ignoring his reciprocal complaints against the Millers. Abuse of restraining order proceedings and defective service. On or about August 5, 2022, Zachary Allen Miller Jr. filed an application for an ex parte civil harassment restraining order against Plaintiff, reasserting false claims of stalking and racial intimidation, a deprivation of liberty and travel, the resulting temporary restraining order TRO and emergency protective order EPO imposed a 300-yard exclusion zone around the neighbouring property. Because of the layout of the neighbourhood, these geographic restrictions effectively trapped Plaintiff, preventing lawful travel to and from his own residence and place of employment at 12 West Avenida de las Flores. B. Complete failure of service of process. Plaintiff was systematically deprived of notice and an opportunity to be heard. The proofs of service filed with the Superior Court were fraudulent, inaccurate, or forged. In truth, lawful service of the restraining order documents never occurred. Furthermore, service by the Ventura County Sheriff's Office was explicitly cancelled at the petitioner's request on two separate occasions: September 2, 2022, and September 6, 2022, despite multiple field officers openly acknowledging uncertainty regarding whether service had been completed. Law enforcement treated the restraining order as fully enforceable, using it as a pretext for continuous field contacts and eventual criminal process. Chronology of material events. September 6-8, 2022, altered evidence and false police reports. On September 6, 2022, plaintiff attempted to report criminal misconduct regarding a fraudulent service of process and expressed fear for his safety after observing an individual with a firearm on September 8, 2022. Deputy Ricardo Tejada prepared Police Report No. 22-120,448. Plaintiff alleges this report contained materially false transcriptions that intentionally altered the meaning of plaintiff's recorded words to fabricate grounds for criminal prosecution. October 15, 2022. Unlawful arrest and excessive force. Ventura County Sheriff's deputies arrested plaintiff. Plaintiff alleges the arrest was executed without probable cause or a valid warrant. During the encounter, officers utilized excessive force by pointing firearms at plaintiff and applying handcuffs so tightly that they exacerbated visible, pre-existing injuries, violating his rights under the Fourth Amendment. February 23, 2023. Unlawful eviction and initial property seizure. Circumventing active COVID-19 statutory housing protections designed to prevent abrupt displacement, Ventura County officials participated in removing plaintiff from his residence without providing legally mandated statutory notice. During this eviction, officials unlawfully seized and impounded plaintiff's primary shelter and personal property, including a 1988 Fleetwood Pace Arrow motorhome. August 15, 2023. Continued deprivation of property. The continuous deprivation of plaintiff's property interests extended well into 2023. On or about August 15, 2023, governmental actors maintained the seizure and impoundment of additional personal property, including plaintiff's 2001 Volkswagen Jetta and its entire contents, without due process. Summary of alleged pattern of conduct. Plaintiff contends that the actions of the private and public defendants constituted an intertwined, continuous course of conduct rather than isolated events. This systemic pattern is defined by 6 distinct categories of misconduct. 1. Repeated false report. A sustained campaign of weaponized reports to local, state, and federal law enforcement to instigate baseless official action. 2. Fraudulent service of process utilizing legally deficient, improper, or forged proofs of service to secure judicial enforcement without giving plaintiff notice or a right to be heard. 3. Falsification of official records, constructing and relying upon police reports containing knowingly manufactured, altered, or false information. 4. Unlawful arrest and detention as subjecting plaintiff to an unwarranted, warrantless arrest involving excessive physical force and deprivation of liberty. 5. Deprivation of property, unlawfully evicting plaintiff and permanently impounding his vehicles, Fleetwood motorhome and VW Jetta, and personal belongings. 6. Violations of constitutional protections of executing the aforementioned actions under colour of law to violate plaintiff's rights protected by the 4th, 14th, and 1st Amendments, as well as California statutory protections,